Hasta la vista, baby.
Equestrian The Game is a mobile game from Cavalry Games that has been pretty hyped for a very, very long time, and it finally launched globally a few days ago with some very positive and happy responses. In their social media posts, the comments are bursting with pure, unadulterated happiness for finally being able to play this hyped game. And I'm here to tell you, this game is really not that good. Please put the pitchforks down.
Uncool, Carl! Not down with the fire!
For a good while now, this game has been hiding behind the shield of soft launch, deflecting all criticism and reviews by simply stating, the game is not completed yet. But now that it is finally being released globally, we can now give it a full review, as a global launch does at least equal version 1.0. The game won't magically become better or different than it is now, and yes, the breeding might add a new dynamic to the game, but it's not going to change the fundamental elements that create so many problems. To be clear, there are some good points in this game, it's not all bad, but there is also a lot holding it back from being something great. It's mobile, it's stale and boring gameplay, the predatory microtransactions, and the broken gameplay mechanics which actually drive me crazy. But also, to be clear, if you like this game, I'm not trying to tell you not to, but I'm rather going to look at this game from a critical standpoint and try not to protect it with convenient excuses like soft launch or beta. But with all of this out of the way, let's get into it. Before I can even begin to talk about this game, I need to talk about the microtransactions. No matter how positive you try to be about this game, these prices will remain predatory and unacceptable. I don't like microtransactions, to be quite clear. I don't mind games making money, but this is unacceptable, as I said before. But Equestrian The Game is actually downright devious in how they get you to buy. Our brains are 60% visual, did you know that? It essentially means that everything that we're picking up will be around 60% what our eyes are perceiving, which is why art is more popular than reading. In short, we can find instant satisfaction with art and not with a book. Reading takes effort, and the human populace seems to have an allergy to effort these days. Says the one who complains about horse games, but I digress. When you boot up the game, you are left with this red and blue combination that will make your eye bulge out of your skull for a quick and merciful death. This particular outfit is both deliberate and an awful way to force you to buy. If 60% of our brains is visually inclined, it means that 60% of our brain is entirely focused on this ugly red and blue combination and begging by the end of the play session for anything else to look at. It's an underhanded ploy to twist the knife into your eyes and force you to buy. So you toddle off to the shop and die of a heart attack from the prices. The prices are insane. That's it. Beyond insane. And you can only buy it with real money. Even Century Age of Ashes, another game with some seriously overpriced gems, has decided it's okay for the minions to purchase cosmetics with the in-game currency. That's quite nice of them. Have a silver coin, Century. You've earned it. But not in Equestrian The Greed. They demand money, and lots of it. And I'm not the only one saying their prices are downright extortionate. And for those defending this title because it's still being worked on or it's not done yet, please keep in mind that that means that these prices are being tacked onto a beta game and you're essentially paying full price for an unfinished product. The argument that you don't have to buy the cosmetics in Equestrian The Game becomes moot when the prices are more expensive than AAA titles. They're quite literally around $5 to $6 for 2 colors of a saddle pad. So that means it's around $3 for a single color. And you need to pay $3 for the color blue.
Are you out of your mind?
I would honestly not have minded so much if they at least allowed some customization of our characters' clothing at the start. But they refuse to do even that, because by shackling you to one set, they know you'll become desperate to look different, especially with such an ugly combination, and so you plop down money so that you can feel like an individual. And that is exactly what they do. They prey on your need to feel like an individual. Isn't that just lovely? Furthermore, they are hiding fun items behind a large paywall or season pass. Here is a list of items currently available for this event. As you can see, most of them are locked, making the option to buy that bit more tantalizing, doesn't it? I don't usually mind season passes, but they're just another way to squeeze more dollars out of you. And I just don't like the practices, to be honest, because it's underhanded. It runs on FOMO, or fear of missing out, every few months, and they just continuously milk you. I have the savvy not to buy it because it's worthless crap, but others aren't as savvy, especially not a younger audience who gets easily pulled into the hype. But wait, according to Equestrian The Game, they didn't actually make this game for a younger audience. They are aiming it at an older audience, which according to them means that kids won't be wasting money on this game. Yes, I just said that out loud and it's downright laughable. That is not how games work, Equestrian The Game. You don't even have an age restriction on your game. You have nothing that prevents kids from spending hard-earned cash on this title. So this is just a terrible excuse for why the prices are so high. How is this even a thing? What were you thinking when you replied this to me? And for those of you already clapping away at the keyboards telling me they need to make money, just for a moment think about it like this. For $120, you get 1,340 coins. With those coins, you can buy a portion of the current cosmetics in the game, or some cosmetics and a few horses you can create yourself. But then it dries up, and now items become available and you need to buy again. So you pay another $120 to get some more cosmetics and maybe another horse. But now you have paid $220 to get only partial cosmetics in a game, because a new batch is coming out soon. I can buy a game full price at around $100 and I'll receive all content on a first go and a AAA title to boot. I don't need to continuously plop down money to feel like I'm part of the game, because they add enough to keep you engaged. DLCs and extra packages are just that, or supposed to be that, just extras to enrich the game experience. I literally do not have to buy them because the base game is already a full experience. To be fair, there is nothing wrong with microtransactions. It is a viable way for a company to keep a steady flow of income into their bursting pockets, but it's how they go about it and these prices that are just not acceptable. Burdening us with an eyesore of the year to make those pretty floral patterns more tantalizing, well, isn't that just a diabolical way of ensuring we want to buy? The sad thing is, in this game there is a simple fix. Having some customization at the start would help. Give us 3 basic colored shirts and 2 colored pants. But you know what? I doubt they're gonna do that, because they really want you to feel ugly so that you will buy. It's deliberate. Make you no damned mistake to saddle us with this vomit combination. To be absolutely fair, we do upon rare occasions find or win some cosmetics through the seasons. However, most of the items are locked behind a paywall. Gotta love that greediness. With the microtransactions out of the way, I can finally get into some positives of the game. We're gonna start with the character creation, because really it is a pretty cool character creation. You start off with an obligatory character creation section wherein which you can adjust your features like your hair, facial features, eye color and nose size. You can also adjust your body size, which should be mentioned and pointed at as a great concept, and it is. Offering us the chance to slide our characters' bodies into a wide range of types is commendable and a nice feature. This courtesy extends to your horse, where you can with gusto select the breed, adjust mane and tail, add socks or blazers, and once again turn your pony into something only you want to ride. Although you can't change its size, which makes no sense. Having the option to turn my Arabian into a chunky boy would have no doubt elevated this game from mediocre to downright spectacular. But in short, the character creation is, although not as in-depth as Cyberpunk, where we without prejudice select the genitals of our character, is still very much serviceable, and beyond what we have a right to expect from a game on a mobile platform. The horse models are very pretty, with lively ears that pull back when the horse needs to tell you that you're being a twat, and pricked ears to tell you that it has been upset by the bush and needs a pat before it bucks you off for being a slow twat. The horse animations are very, very good. They flow and move like real horses, and I'm hard-pressed not to call them some of the best I've seen in a game. Only the trot sometimes goes a little wonky, and the feathering around the hooves looks a little odd, but yeah, those are very, very small things in comparison to how damn beautiful these animations are. There's just so much to enjoy about them. The flying changes, the extensions, the collections, it's very, very beautiful. And I just like the fact that I can turn the camera and just admire these animations. Love it from top to bottom. Great animations. I don't think I have seen a game in recent years that have animations for horses that are this good. So well done. But horses do at least feel alive, or at least as alive as a horse can feel on a mobile game. At least I don't have to clean up after it. Just wait for the poop update. Each horse also has a string of abilities and potential you can train and bump up. These include jumping, responsiveness, speed, turnability, mentality, strength and stamina. Trot, walk and canter are also in the mix, which will be used later once the dressage has been added to the game, a feature often mentioned and pointed to when we complain about the current state of the game. It's still coming. Yes, well, I'm not going to be telling you how good the paramedic services were until they actually get their asses to my house and save me from a heart attack, now am I? But all of this means that maneuvering actually becomes tighter and more intricate as you level. That's expected, bog standard, even Star Stable does this, and that game is over 10 years old now. But well done, the training does at least have an impact on the horse overall. There are also some pretty environments in which you can ride around in and take part in short trails. It's one of these 3 areas where you will train your horse, but for now let's focus on how pretty it is. Yes, very pretty as we can see. But why is it so pale? It's like everything has been done in a watercolor tone. Oh, yes, of course, I remember why. Somewhere someone decided that women love pastel colors, and because women play horse games, they want to make it appealing to their target audience. This is all well and good, but the problem is, pastel colors put you to sleep. Now, to be fair, a lot of people might actually like these bleached colors, but to me, they're just too dead to make any sort of impact or make me feel anything beyond boredom. But yes, this is absolutely a subjective point. I just wish that pastel colors will be ejected out of horse games, because like I said, pastel colors calm you down, bright colors actually perk you up. Now, the horse market is another spot that has been done justice. Kind of. In short, you get a selection of 5 horses and you can pay to investigate them, like some equestrian homes with a little magnifying glass and everything. When you investigate the horse, you get more information, like where the peak of its potential is and its abilities overall. If you don't like any of them, you can throw them all out and get a batch of new ones. I've always wondered where those horses go after you throw them out. But overall, I like it. I do enjoy the variety in options, and I do love that it's always available. What I don't like is the fact that it's capped. But this is the positive section, so I'm not really allowed to be too negative, at least not yet. The last few points are the buildings, which change shape as you upgrade, making the ranch look pretty snazzy after a while, and the music, which is quite relaxing and sweet sounding. Nothing too spectacular, but it's serviceable. And that's it for positives. Now, you are very much allowed to run off and go watch happy playthroughs of the game to keep yourself firmly in that beautiful hype bubble you've constructed from that unadulterated excitement. But for those who are more curious, who want to burst the bubble, so to speak, step in and I'll show you exactly where this game fails. And it all revolves around boxes. Lots and lots of boxes. The whole game revolves around one key question. Do you have a high enough tier horse box? And the answer is, at least at the start, and always thereafter until you reach the highest tier, emphatically no. This is the first box they actually put you in. But in order to understand the game, we do need to understand its currencies first, because that is actually what the whole game revolves around. There are 3 currencies in game: carrots, in-game dollars, and gold coins. The carrots and dollars you can generate in-game, the gold coins you need to buy with real money. Carrots are used to pay for longer training sessions as well as regenerating your horse's energy when it drops too low and you don't want to wait for it to go up again. So it's an exchange. You pay a carrot, your horse goes up in energy and you can ride again. Dollars are used to upgrade buildings and buy horses at the horse market. You can generate this at your farm. And the gold coins are used to create new horses, buy cosmetics and speed up training sessions. Mostly you can get away with never really buying a gold coin, but there is a certain catch to this we'll see a little later with the training. But for now, let's focus on the buildings, because good grief. The whole game is made up of boxes, as I said before. You are, to put it simply, always stuck in one box before you can move on to the next. This is done by giving buildings levels, horses tiers, and giving competitions capped ceilings. And they ensure to use different ways of choking you to prevent you from reaching the next box. Everything in the game is there to hinder, hobble, or choke your progression in the game. If you want to get a higher tier horse, you need to get a higher tier horse market. The horse market is locked to the current tier, so you can't, for example, save up and buy a higher tier horse. You have to upgrade the market to get a better horse. Now, currently, if I want to get to a level 10 horse market, it's going to cost me $16,800 of in-game money. Money I generate in-game via the office, and I have to log in to pick it up every day, otherwise I miss out on the subsequent days. Damn sneaking to get people to log in, isn't it? You don't actually want to log in, but rather you have to log in, otherwise you lose cash. This game. But I can't upgrade the horse box until I have upgraded my office, which means I need to plop down another $14,400 before I can upgrade the horse market, which means I actually need a total of $31,000 before I can get a new horse market and thus a better horse. And I currently make $3,300 a day by my office at tier 9, which means I'm going to have to wait around 10 days before I can upgrade my horse market again. And remember, if I don't log in, I lose my money. Uninstall. But it's a classic case of choking and keeping you in a box to elongate the game and prevent you from blasting through content in less than 3 days, or rather content, because there really isn't a whole lot to begin with, which is why they throttle you with an artificial hindrance. I'm going to have to explain the made-up word I just made up. An example of an organic hindrance, another uppy word I made, is basic leveling in an RPG. If you're playing as an archer, your shots can't kill a fully grown troll just yet. You need to practice to get the skill required to kill the troll. But even if your level isn't high enough, you can, with some quick footwork, most likely still kill the troll if you know what you're doing. This is organic, it's not stagnant, but allows for some wiggle room to give you the option to either level or give it a shot in any case and see how it goes. That didn't go well. Equestrian The Game has no such wiggle room. It just boxes you in via the restriction set on the buildings, and then you have to wait days before you're able to upgrade again. Equestrian The Wait. This aspect has decided to stretch its annoying tentacles throughout the game and smothers any sort of excitement that could have been bred if these tight restrictive boundaries had been made more relaxed and the game was designed to be challenging, not just hindering, like games should be. Now let's get into the gameplay and horses, because much like the buildings, there is a serious issue with stifling and throwing up roadblocks to hinder progress. Equestrian the hindrance, I'll stop now. Although I certainly do love the animations, I have to admit that there is one problem with them. Their movement is very floaty, and they don't always touch the ground. They all float.
They all float!
But if the models and animations are good, this should extend to the horse's gameplay at the very least. That should be pretty good, right? Not even close. Mostly the horses respond at least, but at times this breaks down and I can't always tell if it's the game or the horse just acting up. Equestrian the Confused does not communicate well. In particular, it does not communicate jumping very well. When jumping, there is a meter on the side you have to use to get the horse over the jump. The idea is to get the marker in the green area, and this will equal a successful jump. It does not work like that, let me tell you. Just for the record, you're supposed to get this marker in the green, but red equals success, green equals success, yellow equals success, outside the box equals success. How does this exactly work? I wish I could figure out the jumping. It lilts between working and breaking, but it makes little sense. Here you can see me missing the first jump. Okay, fine. I didn't have the reins back far enough, but literally in the same ride, it happened again and I had the reins up even higher. Communication is so poor, and this creates mass confusion when you're trying to figure out how to refine your skill. The game is just coded poorly, and you end up often wondering, is it me, is it the game, or was it the horse? I've asked this so many times I've given up on finding the answer. If it was consistent and all clear and concise, I would be all for it, but because the game is such a mess of items, personality, form, and bad communication, I just don't care, so I throw out this entire section of the game, except for one or two elements. But some of you might be asking, why is this so important? Well, surely they don't matter in the long run if we're having fun. No, communication in a game is the most important aspect of any game, especially if this is part of the main gameplay element. When I decided to pull out a spell instead of the stupid bow to kill the troll, that has killed me 3 times already, I get 2 parts of communication. 1, if I have struck them, and 2, does their health go down? I hear an audio cue, or sometimes a visual cue, if I actually hit my target, and the health bar goes down if they've been hurt. Simple, easy, been done for ages. I also receive both a visual and audio cue when I have been struck, giving me communication on how strong my enemy is. What this really stupid explanation means is I can clearly tell what I'm doing is sufficient to kill the enemy, how tough the enemy is, and in turn, how dangerous that enemy is to my own health bar. I can then, if needed, change tactics to kill them in a different way, like blasting them with fire and lightning instead of the stupid arrow. Clear communication can easily determine the fun factor of a game. That went much better. Without any communication, it becomes guesswork, and so you lose any sort of investment in the game because you realize there are no set boundaries to your game, no set rules, and so you lose investment and the game loses its fun factor and ruins any semblance of a challenge. And the jumping is too all over the place to let us have any real challenge or fun. Now we can get into the next part of the gameplay, which is the personalities. The personalities of your horse are made up of 5 bubbles next to the horse's name. These all represent the combined bits that make up the parts of your horse and should determine how it will ride or how it will control. Although they do have nice names like devoted, charismatic, flyer, jumping prospect, careful, or captivating, what it essentially comes down to is they are just modifiers. That's it. It doesn't really give your horse a sort of personality. It just adds a +1, +2, or +3 to the horse's skills. I'll take my starter horse as an example. Squeak has the positive, adamant, alert, brave, and balanced personality traits. You'd think that something like brave would be quite obvious. When I ride by a bush, Squeak will not spook, but Squeak spooks, and he spooks a lot.
So what's going on? Essentially, all these 4 do is just adjust the mentality, which directly relates to how easily my horse spooks, and the responsiveness, which directly translates to how quickly my horse turns. They don't really add any flavor to the horse, it's really just an adjustment. Now, I've been trying to figure out how many points you get per color, but it's all a bit over the place, so I'm not really sure. Purple is supposed to give you essentially a +6, but I've yet to come across a horse with that high of a bonus. You can see this on screen right now. How does this work? But the thing is, the personalities are not personalities. They are physical attributes. They are stats, nothing more, nothing less. They do not change the way the horse really interacts with you or the environment. Here's an example of what I mean. I tested 2 different horses, one with the happy-go-lucky trait and one with the playful trait. Neither of them showed any signs of having fun or being silly during many rides. They didn't buck playfully or whinny at a random bush or prance for no reason. They didn't take off randomly or rear when I tried to pull back. In fact, they were the easiest horses to ride of the lot, so maybe that's what playful is, just another word for obedient. We should update the dictionary if that is the case. But at the end of the day, they are just pretty names tacked next to the horse, and really that's all it is. It is just a modifier. So if these horses really do ride differently, I couldn't pick it up, and this is after months and months of riding. So what's the point?
It is pointless. It is Equestrian the Pointless. Feed also boosts the horse's ability for a short while, but that's really its only function. Much like the personality traits, they have a huge amount of feed, placing once again emphasis on quantity, not quality. Guys, just ease up on this. When personalities work, they do work. For example, someone told me that you can actually test your horse's temperament by putting them in a walk and seeing how quickly they pick up speed or slow down. Now, I have 5 horses that are all balanced temperaments, and surprisingly, they each had a slightly different walk cycle. This is a very cool example of where the personalities really do work well. But sadly, there is another problem with these horses, and it has to do with the tiers. Not those tiers. So I said earlier that all the horses have tiers, and that determines how high they can go into competitions. The higher the horse tier, the better your chances at doing well in competitions. That's fair. But the problem is, when you get lower tier horses and you want to train them, it means you're essentially wasting your time and putting money and effort into a horse that will not be able to reach those high tiers. So it's actually a safer bet to boost up your farm very quickly in order to get to those higher tier horses so that you can actually take part in the higher tier competitions. Because it's just a waste. I mean, getting a horse that is that low of a tier and you're putting all the effort and energy into training that horse, it doesn't really matter, and you're just going to be ending up selling it in any case. So yeah, just rather boost up the offers, boost up the horse box, and just get those high tier horses, because that's really the only way to have fun. Because the second that you get that higher tier horse, it means that you can engage in a lot more of the content in the game, and that makes it fun. Well, it at least makes it wider for you when you have a lot more to do. Whereas limiting you to those first couple of competitions, it's frustrating, and it's just another way that they choke you. God, this game. Also, just for the record, that lovely horse that you created in the beginning of the game, that you build a bond with and that you really loved, yeah, that horse you're probably gonna sell like really quickly, because it is not a very good tier, and you really want the higher tier horses, and that horse's tier is way low. You're going to be training your horses to get better so that you can take part in higher competitions, so that you can win money, so that you can use that money to upgrade your buildings, so that you can get better horses to take part in higher competitions. That's really what the game is about in a nutshell. Fun. There are 2 ways you can train. Do it yourself or pay to have it done, and then there is also a third option, but we'll get into that. To be absolutely frank, training is a chore. There's no other way to describe it. It's very repetitive, and it's not exactly exciting or engaging. It's a chore. I figured out the formula of training in 10 minutes flat, and since then it's become the biggest chore I can imagine, and I don't even get well paid to do the damn chores. You'll be taking your horse out to one of the 3 or 4 areas you can train. While there, you can select the training you want to do and have at it. Here is the wonderful training you can do with your horse. To do walk training, you do a working walk, an extended walk, and then a collected walk. To do trot training, you do a working trot, an extended trot, and then a collected trot. To do canter training, you do a working canter, an extended canter, and a collected canter. To do speed training, you run at extended canter for X amount of seconds 3 times. To do jump training, you do X amount of jumps 3 times. And that's it. Realistic? Yes. Boring? Even more so. Yeah, horse, I would do the same. Being realistic is one thing, and I do agree that this is probably a very realistic concept of how you're going to be training a horse. But you need to balance out this realism with something that engages the player.
Otherwise, it just becomes work, and that's the unfortunate result that we have here. All of the training becomes work, and that is not something that you want in a game that is supposed to be, well, fun. As you do progress in tiers though, I believe there are 10, these training sections tend to get harder, but therein lies another problem. They don't become more challenging, they just become more difficult. They just become more like a chore, like 3 times collected trot at the second tier of trot, which means the horse keeps switching over to passage and you keep failing the training sessions. Remember when I said getting a balanced horse is better than a hot or cold one? This is the reason why. You really can't get another horse because you're going to be driving yourself crazy. And this just means you're going to be doing it over and over and over again, and with no clear commitment. Now the other option is to pay to have it done. When you pay to have it done, a timer goes down and you have to wait for the timer to reach 0 before you can do it again or do anything else with it. Riveting gameplay. The timer can be either 3 or 10 minutes or 3 to 8 hours. These 4 trainings will vary in how much skill points they give your horse. The longer the training, the more skill points you're getting, easy enough. But you can also skip the training session with golden coins, which cost real money, and the higher the training sessions, the more carrots you have to pay. These you generate from the farm, thankfully. This means you're either going to have to wait for the timer to go down or buckle down and buy some gold coins to speed up the game and get your horse trained quicker. And with the impatience rampant in today's society, we can all kind of guess where this is heading. Now, on the offset, this actually all sounds fine. There are 2 still major issues. The horse can fail the training. Jump and strength training have been deliberately put separately. Jump and strength training are the 2 main parts you need to upgrade in order for your horse to reach the next level. But because they are put separately on the training section, you have to train them twice. This means twice the wait periods, twice the payments. Either way, it's a slog and it doesn't make for a pretty face for the game. It makes it seem a bit nasty, deliberately putting these 2 separate when they could have easily been combined to make it easier on the player, and they decided not to. It's just, why do this? Oh yes, to extend player game time. Just why? It just shows to you how badly this game is designed if they have to go through these extremes to keep players in the game. But like I said, it's all about boxes and slowing you down by throwing molasses in your way any chance it gets. And they have an endless supply of molasses and the hill keeps getting steeper. But the horse can actually fail the training from time to time and you will get little to nothing for the time and effort. There is a bar that lets you know how likely it is for the horse to fail. If you keep picking sections that are within the horse's ability, failures won't be as common. But the higher training sections give you more points, so it's really better to take the risk and try the higher training sections, but then your horse fails like 90% of the time and you've either lost time or worse, money. Why even have the option to let my horse train at a higher training session if you're just gonna keep failing me? I'll tell you why. They like boxes, except when they can entice you to pay money to get out of the box for a while and then have a chance at losing that money and then buying more coins from them. Isn't the world of mobile game a wonderful place? Now, to skip the training isn't that pricey, but it accumulates, especially when you want more horses or you want to train quicker to get to the higher tiers, which is really where we all want to be. We want to go over the big jumps, the jumps, the jumpiest jumps. Whee! Which is why the endless trickle of molasses is so irritating. It's one of those games that have been deliberately designed to hobble Equestrian the hobble you unless you pay money. When you have money and you're using it to speed up training and buy cosmetics, it can actually be a fun game, but without those elements you can feel the restraints tighten around your neck, choking you to the point of passing out from complete boredom. But the tragedy, or the best part, worst part, I'm not sure, about Equestrian the Game is that you can skip all of this. You can skip every single part of training with this trick. Create an account and don't buy anything. Just keep accumulating money from the office and upgrade it steadily to level 8 or 9. Once that is done, don't use your dollars for anything. Don't buy horses. Don't upgrade the silos, don't upgrade the training hall or the stables. Just use the horse you've got if you want to ride and continue to save up. You can save up the carrots as well. Continue to just log in every morning, collect your money and save up until you have around 150k. Then upgrade your office and your horse box to the highest tier. Buy an older horse that is basically fully trained and voila! You can take part in higher competitions without any hassle whatsoever. And you don't have to waste money on training. Is this game just horribly designed or is it just me? But let's move into competitions, because that is actually kind of the whole point of this game, is to take part in competitions, sort of, but let's get into it. The entire point of training is to take part in competitions to get items and to rank. But the competitions are just more boxes where you're shoved into. Yes, even more boxes abound. There are 2 main issues with competitions: repetitiveness and downgrading of horses for the sake of tension. Let's start with the repetitiveness to give you an overall idea of what competitions entail, and then we can get into the rest of the crapshoot. Competitions have 3 main sections: Global, Pony and Breeders' Cup.
To go up in rank, you need to start at the first competition and work your way up to the Grand Prix. The one with all the nice big jumps we all want to jump over. The big jumpy jumps. The jumpiest jumps. Whee! If you don't have at least a tier 9 horse, you're probably not going to make it, but it's still, something to do. Now, to go up a rank, you need to fill up this bar. To fill up this bar, you need to take part in these competitions. And for each one you complete, the bar goes up. This is all well and good until you hit tier 3 or 2, where the previous tiers expected you to do each course maybe once. This one expects you to do each course twice for tier 2 and up to 3 times per course for tier 1, for the higher tiers. There is no reason for this beyond choking you and preventing you from blasting through content. But you might be thinking, that's fine. There are 3 sections, Pony, Global and Breeders, with the Breeders' Cup having at least 5 different competitions. There is a lot of variety. I can have fun here. No. Because all the courses are exactly the same. The Pony looks like the Global looks like the Breeders, and all the Breeders courses are identical copies of each other. Everything is the same. There is nothing unique or nothing interesting. They just decided to take the same thing and copy paste it all into all of the competitions and drive you crazy. I do find this really lazy. Why not just make the Ponies and the Breeders and the Global different? Why not design different courses for these horses? I just don't understand it. The game is already so thin on the ground with content. Why not just go that extra mile and do something more with it? So there is something else that we need to discuss about the competitions, and that has to do with, once again, a box or a choking method that they so love to bring in. Within each tier, there are 3 rounds you need to complete before you can move on to the next tier. You unlock a new round when you complete one. So you start at number 1 and move your way up to 3 and then move on to the next tier. Simple, no issues. For each competition, your horse can get 3 ribbons during its ride. Depending on how well he did will determine how many ribbons he wins. If your horse knocked a pole, he can actually still get the highest ranking 3 ribbons if you manage to keep him within the time frame and not knock another pole. I like this, as it gives that much needed wiggle room for the player to try and win, even if they've knocked a pole at the very start. That boosts the tension for the rest of the ride. Great, organic, I love it. But then they screw it up. Because even if you win 3 ribbons, the only way you can get through to the next round is if you ride a perfectly clear round. This means if you knock the first pole, you know you've just lost the round. Even if you ride perfectly and get 3 ribbons, the game laughs in your face and tells you to do it again. But it gets a little bit more annoying. Your horse keeps gaining experience as you ride, meaning if you're stuck in tier 3 and keep doing the round over and over, eventually your horse is going to level up. But because you're stuck in tier 3, your horse can't level up further until you reach tier 2, which just becomes a bit of a grate and a grind, and another way to put you in a box and force you to just slog through the content. Anyway, let's get into the more egregious issue, that of the horses and how they conveniently forget their top tier horses the second they step into a lower tier arena. I am not kidding. In short, when you have a horse that is a top tier, you're still going to have a hard time with the lower tier competitions because your horse has been downgraded to that tier for that time, for that duration of the contest, because they didn't know how to code in organic tension and how to thrust it upon the player via shackling their poor horse and dumbing them down into oblivion.
Stop right there, criminal scum!
That was a ruddy mouthful, but it's literally what happens. So what's going on here? Why are the horses turning into idiots the second they step into a low-tier arena? Simple. The game has been coded to observe the level of the arena and not the level of the horse. This makes it simpler to code, contained entities and all that. Each arena is a contained box, a pocket dimension where all horses will forever remain exactly the same with no variation. Isn't that absolutely lovely? But not as lovely as the overpriced cosmetics. But we've already spoken about that. But that was the line I had in here, so it's gonna stay. Overpriced cosmetics. Equestrian The Game decided to hide behind the veil of soft launch for months to prevent any criticism. They are now using the excuse of "it's not done yet" as just another shield to protect themselves from further negative feedback, and they'll have another excuse waiting in the wings, make you no mistake. Can the game become something more? Sure. Can it become a better game? Sure. And I'll be the first to say so if it does. I want companies to better themselves and I want Equestrian The Game to succeed. But this game needs to be careful. Century Age of Ashes is an example of how quickly things can tumble down if left for too long. It's an example of how easily even great concepts can burn itself to the ground if it does not rush to better itself. If it launches too quickly and sits too long on ideas, it can die. Equestrian The Game is a damn long way away of being anything close to good. They have a long road ahead of them. It has now been launched globally. Although everyone is excited for it, what I see in this game is a decent skeleton that needs a lot of meat if it's to be anything close to substantial. Also, if you want us to pay so much Equestrian The Game, then just let us pay once and be done with it. But you won't do that, would you? Because at the end of the day, you make more money with microtransactions than you do with once-off payments. I'm sick and tired of pretending that just because a game is free, we should fall on our knees in gratitude. No, they are not free, they are provisionally. If they were free, I wouldn't have to pay not to look like a colorblind clown. And stop hiding behind beta and soft launch and take responsibility for this game and its faults. And let us be critical without needing to throw up a shield every time we have something to say against the game. It is these practices that make it so difficult to enjoy. Hiding behind beta and soft launch and then turning around and asking hundreds of dollars for useless items is downright despicable, and my ire and frustration with this game stems from this. From this audacity to use impatience and impulse to take, and in exchange give us a half-finished game and expect us to be grateful for it. Equestrian The Game has potential, but it is the practices that will drag it down if they don't change. But I doubt we'll see that, because money really is a wonderful thing to get, isn't it?